Story: Don't swim after sunset. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to Mr. Creepy Official, because the stories you hear here are all based on events people wish they could forget. And trust me, after hearing this one, you might never swim in open water again. I grew up in a quiet lakeside town in northern Michigan. The place was called Stillwater Lake. It was beautiful during the day. Crystal clear water. Wooden docks stretching across the surface. Kids jumping in with laughter echoing across the trees. But when the sun started going down, everything changed. And there was one rule everyone in town followed. A rule so normal that nobody questioned it. Don't swim after sunset. Not because of sharks. Not because of currents. The lake was actually shallow and calm. But every single adult in town treated that rule like life or death. If kids were still swimming when the sun touched the horizon, parents would scream their names like the house was on fire. Boats rushed back to the docks. Cabins locked their doors. And within minutes, the entire lake would become completely empty. When I was younger, I thought it was stupid. Just some old town superstition. But when I turned 17, I learned why that rule existed. And I wish I never had. It was mid-July. Hot enough that the air felt sticky even after dark. My friends and I were hanging out near the public dock, the one next to the abandoned boathouse. There were 4 of us. Me, Ryan, Derek, and Mia. Ryan was the one who suggested it. Let's night swim. I laughed. You know the rule. Ryan rolled his eyes. Dude, that rule is for little kids. Derek shrugged. My dad says people drown here at night. People drown everywhere, Ryan said. It's just a lake. Mia looked out at the water. The surface was perfectly still. Almost like glass. Honestly, she said quietly, I've always wondered why everyone's so scared of it. Ryan grinned. Exactly. Then he pointed toward the lake. So let's prove them wrong. The sun had already disappeared behind the trees. The sky was deep purple. Crickets chirped in the woods. And the lake was darker than I'd ever seen it. Ryan kicked off his shoes first. Last one in is a coward. Before anyone could respond, he jumped. Splash. The sound echoed across the empty lake. For a moment, nothing happened. Then Ryan surfaced. The water dripped from his hair as he laughed. See? Completely fine. Derek looked nervous. But eventually he sighed and jumped in too. Another splash. Then Mia. Now they were all looking at me. You coming or what? Ryan called. I hesitated. Something about the lake felt wrong. The water looked too dark. Too quiet. But I didn't want to be the only one standing there. So I jumped. The water was cold. Way colder than it should have been in the middle of summer. When I surfaced, Ryan laughed. See? No monsters. We floated there for a few minutes, joking and splashing. At first, it felt normal. Relaxing even. Then Derek said something that made my stomach tighten. Hey, do you guys hear that? We all went quiet. At first I thought it was just the wind. But then I heard it too. A sound coming from somewhere in the lake. A faint splash. Not from us. Something else. Moving. Underwater. Ryan looked around. Probably a fish. But the splash happened again. Closer this time. Mia whispered, that sounded big. Ryan forced a laugh. Relax. Then it happened again. Splash. This time. Right behind us. We all turned. The water surface was rippling. But nothing was there. Just darkness. Ryan frowned. Okay, that's weird. Then Derek pointed. Guys. We looked where he was pointing. About 30 feet away. Something was floating. At first I thought it was a log. But then the clouds moved away from the moon. And the light hit it. It wasn't a log. It was a person. Floating face down in the water. Mia gasped. Oh my God. Ryan whispered, is that a body? The shape slowly drifted toward us. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Then suddenly, the body turned over. And I swear to God, its eyes were open. Wide. White. Staring straight at us. Ryan yelled. Swim back. We all started moving toward the dock as fast as we could. The water suddenly felt thicker. Like something was pulling against us. Behind me. I heard another splash. But this time it wasn't random. It was fast. Like something swimming. Directly toward us. Mia screamed. It's coming. I turned around for 1 second. The floating body was gone. But something was moving under the water. A long shadow. Circling us. Ryan reached the dock ladder first and climbed out. Derek was right behind him. Mia grabbed the ladder. Then I felt something brush my leg. Cold. Slimy. I kicked violently. And whatever it was disappeared. I climbed out as fast as I could. All 4 of us stood on the dock, breathing hard. Ryan tried to laugh. Probably just a fish. But then Mia whispered something that froze us all. Then why did it have hands? We looked back at the lake. The surface was calm again. Like nothing had happened. But then, something slowly rose from the water. About 20 feet away. Just the top of a head. Long wet hair covering its face. Floating there. Watching us. Ryan whispered. What the hell is that? Then the head tilted. And we heard something that still gives me nightmares. A voice. Gurgling through water. Soft. Broken. And repeating the same words. Over. And over. And over. Why did you come in? We ran. None of us stopped until we reached the road. Mia was crying. Derek kept looking back. Ryan tried to act calm but his hands were shaking. Finally we slowed down near the streetlight. That thing was fake, Ryan said. Someone messing with us. Nobody responded. Then Derek said quietly. My uncle drowned in that lake. We looked at him. He drowned 20 years ago. Ryan frowned. So? Derek swallowed. He drowned at night. Mia whispered. What does that have to do with anything? Derek looked back toward the dark lake. And said something.
That made my stomach drop. Because when they found his body. He paused. Then finished. They said he wasn't the only one in the water. I thought that was the end of it. Just a creepy night. A stupid mistake. But 3 days later. Ryan disappeared. And the last place anyone saw him. Was walking toward the lake. After sunset. And that's when we learned something the entire town had been hiding. Because, don't swim after sunset. Wasn't the real rule. The real rule was much worse. The real rule was. If the lake notices you, it won't let you leave. And what we saw that night. That floating body. That wasn't a ghost. It wasn't a prank. It was something far older. Something that had been living in Stillwater Lake for decades. Maybe centuries. And once it sees you in the water after dark, it starts remembering you. Ryan was the first one it came back for. But he wasn't the last. Because 2 nights after he vanished, I heard something outside my bedroom window. Dripping. Slow. Wet footsteps. Coming from the direction of the lake. And when I looked outside.
When I saw Ryan standing outside my house that night, my brain refused to believe it. Because Ryan had been missing for 2 days. The police had searched the woods. They dragged parts of the lake with boats. His parents were already talking about the worst possible outcome. But there he was. Standing under the streetlight in front of my house. Dripping wet. Completely silent. At first, I thought maybe he had fallen into the lake again. Maybe he was injured or confused. But something about the way he stood there felt wrong. His arms hung too low at his sides. His shoulders twitched every few seconds. And his head was tilted slightly to the side like his neck couldn't hold it straight. I slowly opened my bedroom window. Ryan? The word barely came out. He didn't answer. He just stood there, staring at my house. Then slowly, very slowly, he lifted his face. And that's when I saw his eyes. They were completely white. No pupils. No color. Just pale, cloudy white. Like the eyes of something that had been underwater for too long. My heart started pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Ryan. He smiled. But it wasn't Ryan's smile. It stretched too wide across his face. Then he whispered something that made every hair on my body stand up. The exact same words we heard at the lake. Why did you come in? And before I could react, he turned and walked back down the street. Toward the lake. The next morning, I told Derek and Mia everything. We met at the small diner near the gas station. The kind of place where everyone in town knows each other. But when I finished explaining what I saw, neither of them laughed. In fact, they looked terrified. Mia leaned closer. Are you serious? I swear. Derek rubbed his face. Ryan's parents said the police think he drowned. I shook my head. I saw him. Derek whispered. If he drowned, and you saw him walking around. He didn't finish the sentence. But we were all thinking the same thing. Mia spoke quietly. We need to talk. Someone. Who? I asked. She hesitated. Someone who knows about the lake. Derek slowly nodded. I know someone. That afternoon we drove to the edge of town. Past the cabins. Past the marina. Until we reached an old wooden house near the forest. It belonged to Mr. Halvorson. Everyone in town knew him. He was in his late 70s and had lived near Stillwater Lake longer than anyone else. People said he used to be a fisherman before he suddenly stopped going near the water 20 years ago. Derek knocked on the door. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the door creaked open. Mr. Halvorson stared at us. What do you kids want? Derek hesitated. It's about the lake. The old man froze. His eyes moved slowly between the 3 of us. Then he said something that made my stomach drop. You went swimming after sunset. It wasn't a question. It was a statement. Nobody answered. But our silence was enough. Mr. Halvorson sighed heavily and opened the door wider. Come inside. His house smelled like old wood and cigarettes. We sat around a small kitchen table while he poured coffee into a chipped mug. For a while, he didn't say anything. Then he finally looked at us. Tell me exactly what you saw. We explained everything. The splashing. The floating body. The voice. Ryan disappearing. And finally, Ryan standing outside my house. When I finished speaking, the old man looked more tired than scared. Like he had expected this story. He leaned back in his chair. "You kids broke the rule." Mia asked quietly. "Why does that rule exist?" The old man stared at the floor. Then he said something none of us expected. "Because the lake isn't empty." A chill ran through my body. "What do you mean?" Derek asked. Mr. Halvorson sighed. "There's something in that water." Mia shook her head. "Like a fish?" The old man laughed. But it wasn't a happy laugh. "No." He looked at us seriously. "Something that wears people." None of us spoke. Finally Derek said. "What does that even mean?" Mr. Halvorson said something quietly. Something that still echoes in my head. "It means you're next." That night, I didn't sleep. Every small noise outside made my heart jump. Around 2 a.m., I heard something again. Dripping. The same wet footsteps. Outside my house. I slowly looked through the curtains. And my stomach dropped. Ryan wasn't alone anymore. There were 3 people standing in the street. All soaked. All pale. All staring at my house. And every single one of them had completely white eyes. Then they slowly started walking toward my front door. And that's when I realized something even worse. Because one of the faces in that group was Derek's uncle. The one who drowned 20 years ago. When I saw them standing outside my house that night, my entire body went numb. 3 figures. All dripping wet. All staring at my front door. Ryan was in the middle. His head tilted slightly to the side, just like before. To his left stood a tall man whose skin looked gray and wrinkled like it had been underwater for years. And on Ryan's right was someone I recognized immediately. Derek's uncle. The man who drowned 20 years ago. I had seen his photo at Derek's house before. There was no mistake. He looked exactly the same. Except now his eyes were completely white. My hand started shaking so badly I almost dropped the curtain. Then Ryan slowly raised his head and looked directly at my window. He couldn't possibly see me through the darkness. But the moment his face turned upward, I knew he did. His smile stretched wider. Then all 3 of them began walking toward my house. Slow. Uneven steps. Water dripping from their clothes onto the pavement. I stumbled backward away from the window. My heart felt like it was going to explode. The footsteps reached my porch. Then I heard something scrape across the door. Ryan's voice came through the wood. Wet. Broken. Barely human. "We saw you, in the water." My throat went dry. The door handle slowly started turning. My parents were asleep downstairs. They had no idea what was happening. Then the voice spoke again. This time all 3 of them said it together. "Come back to the lake." I grabbed my phone and called Derek. He answered immediately. His voice sounded panicked. "Dude, something's wrong. They're at my house too." A chill ran through my body. "You see them?" "Yes." Then Derek said something that made everything worse. "There's more of them." "How many?" His voice dropped to a whisper. 6. Mia called us seconds later. She was crying. "They're outside my house." My stomach twisted. "They're everywhere." Within an hour we were all back at Mr. Halvorson's house. The old man opened the door before we even knocked.
Like he was expecting us. "They found you," he said quietly. We rushed inside. Mia looked terrified. "They're following us." Mr. Halvorsen locked the door and closed all the curtains. Then he said something that made the room go silent. "That means it's almost time." Derek frowned. "For what?" The old man stared at the floor. "For the lake to feed." He pulled out an old newspaper clipping from a drawer. The paper was yellow and brittle. The headline read, "7 missing after night swimming incident." The date was 1978. Mr. Halvorsen pointed at the article. "Every 20 or 30 years, something happens at Stillwater Lake. People disappear. Some drown. And some." He hesitated. "Come back." Mia whispered. "What is it?" The old man's voice dropped lower. "A parasite." My stomach twisted. "What?" He looked at us. "Something that lives deep in the lake. It can't survive on land. So it uses people." Derek stared at him. "You're saying there's some creature, controlling their bodies?" Mr. Halvorsen nodded slowly. "It enters through the mouth." Mia covered her mouth. "Oh my God. It spreads through the body like roots," the old man continued. "Taking control of muscles. Learning how to move. Learning how to speak." I felt sick. "So Ryan is already gone?" Mr. Halvorsen looked at me sadly. "Yes." Then he said something even worse. "The creature grows stronger with every body it takes. And when it's strong enough, it leaves the lake." The room went silent. Derek whispered, "Leaves?" Mr. Halvorsen nodded. "That's why the town made the rule. Don't swim after sunset. Because that's when it hunts." Suddenly there was a loud thump against the front door. All of us jumped. Another thump. Then a scraping sound. Something dragging across the wood. Mia whispered, "They found us." The old man looked at the door. "They always do." Then we heard Ryan's voice again. But this time it sounded deeper. More voices layered underneath. Like several people speaking. At once. "We know you're inside." My heart stopped. Then the voice continued. "You swam, so you belong to us." The door handle began rattling violently. Derek whispered, "What do we do?" Mr. Halvorsen walked to the kitchen drawer. He pulled out a shotgun. His hands were shaking slightly. "There's only one way to stop it." "What?" I asked. "We have to burn the lake." None of us understood. "How do you burn water?" Mia asked. The old man's eyes were filled with fear. "You burn what's inside it." Another loud bang hit the door. The wood started cracking. And through the small window beside it, I saw them. Not 3. Not 6. At least 20 figures were standing outside. All dripping wet. All with white eyes. All staring at the house. And right in the middle of them, Ryan slowly opened his mouth. Something black and slimy moved inside his throat. Then he spoke. But this time, the voice wasn't human at all. It sounded ancient. Hungry. "We are coming out now." And that's when the front door finally cracked open. The front door cracked open with a loud snap. The sound echoed through Mr. Halvorsen's house. For a second, no one moved. Then the door slowly pushed inward. A thin stream of lake water slid across the wooden floor. And Ryan stepped inside. Or at least, something wearing Ryan's body did. The smell hit us immediately. Rotten water. Mud. And something worse. Something like dead fish left in the sun. Ryan's head twitched as he looked around the room. Behind him, more figures crowded the porch. Pale faces. White eyes. All dripping lake water onto the floor. Mr. Halvorsen raised the shotgun. "Don't move." Ryan smiled. But the smile didn't belong on a human face. It stretched too wide. Too slow. Then his mouth opened. And something inside his throat shifted. Like a nest of worms moving under his skin. When he spoke, the voice that came out wasn't just Ryan's. It was dozens of voices layered together. Wet. Broken. Hungry. "You swam, after sunset." Mia grabbed my arm. Her nails dug into my skin. "Why are they here?" Ryan took another step forward. Water splashed softly under his feet. Then he answered her question. "Because now, we can leave." Mr. Halvorsen fired the shotgun. The blast exploded through the house. Ryan's body flew backward into the doorframe. For a moment, he didn't move. Then something impossible happened. Ryan's body slowly stood back up. His chest was torn open from the blast. But instead of blood, thick black water poured out. And inside the wound, something moved. Thin black tendrils wriggled beneath his skin. Like roots inside a tree. Ryan tilted his head again. Then he laughed. A deep, gurgling sound. "You cannot kill the lake." The other figures outside began moving. One by one they stepped through the broken doorway. Dripping. Silent. At least 20 of them now filled the room. Some looked fresh. Others looked like they had been dead for years. Their skin sagged. Their fingers bent at strange angles. But all of them had the same white eyes. And all of them were staring at us. Mr. Halvorsen whispered. "It's already spread too far." Then he looked at Derek. "The gas cans." Derek nodded quickly. "We had brought them earlier after the old man told us his plan. They were sitting near the kitchen door. 4 large red cans. Full of gasoline. The plan had sounded insane. Burn the lake. But now, standing in a room full of drowned people, it suddenly sounded like the only option." Ryan stepped closer. The tendrils under his skin pulsed slowly. Then his mouth opened wider. Wider than a human mouth should be able to. And something black began sliding out of his throat. It looked like a thick eel. Slimy. Shiny. And covered in tiny hooks along its body. Mia screamed. The creature hung halfway out of Ryan's mouth. Wriggling in the air. Then the voice spoke again. "Soon, we will have more." And suddenly the other drowned bodies started moving faster. All of them stepped toward us at once. "Now!" Mr. Halvorsen shouted. We grabbed the gas cans and ran for the back door. The drowned people lunged forward. One of them grabbed Mia's arm. She screamed as its fingers tightened around her wrist. The skin on its hand peeled away, revealing black tendrils beneath. Derek kicked the creature hard and pulled Mia free. We burst out the back door and ran toward the forest. Behind us we heard the creatures spilling out of the house. Their footsteps splashing through mud and wet grass. Ryan's voice echoed through the night. "Run. IT makes it more fun." We reached the edge of the lake 5 minutes later. The water looked darker than ever. Still. Silent. But now, we could see movement under the surface. Huge shadows sliding beneath the water. Not one creature. Dozens. Maybe hundreds. Mr. Halvorsen started pouring gasoline along the wooden dock. "Pour it everywhere." Derek and I dumped the gas across the water's edge. The fumes burned my nose. Behind us the forest began filling with pale shapes. The drowned were coming. Dozens of them now. Their white eyes glowing faintly in the moonlight. Ryan stepped out of the trees first. His body jerked unnaturally as the creature inside him moved. Then his mouth opened again. And this time, 3 of the eel-like parasites slid out of his throat. They fell into the water with soft splashes. And immediately disappeared beneath the surface. Ryan smiled again. Too late. The lake suddenly exploded with movement. Something massive shifted beneath the water. The surface began bubbling violently. Then a huge shape rose slowly from the darkness. At first I thought it was a tree trunk. Then another one appeared. And another. Long black tendrils rising out of the water. Dozens of them. Each one thicker than a human arm. Each one writhing slowly in the moonlight. Mia whispered. "Oh my God." The lake creature wasn't a single parasite, that it was something far worse. A gigantic mass of black tendrils connected beneath the water. A living nest. A colony. And every drowned person was just one of its limbs walking on land. Mr. Halvorsen lit a flare. The red light illuminated the entire shoreline. The drowned figures stopped moving for a moment. Almost like the creature was confused. The old man looked at us. "This ends tonight." Then he threw the flare. The gasoline ignited instantly. A wall of fire raced across the dock and into the water's surface. The flames spread along the shoreline. Bright orange fire reflecting across the dark lake. And then the creature screamed. Not a human scream. Something deeper. Older. A sound so loud it shook the trees. The tendrils thrashed wildly in the burning water. Drowned bodies collapsed to the ground as the parasite lost control. Ryan's body fell to his knees. His mouth opened wide. And the eel-like creature began crawling out. It slid across the dirt toward the lake. But Derek grabbed a burning piece of wood and smashed it. The parasite shriveled instantly. Ryan's body dropped face first into the mud. Completely still. The lake burned for hours. By morning, the water was silent again. No movement. No shadows. No white-eyed figures. Just smoke rising slowly from the blackened surface. The parasite colony was gone. Destroyed. Or at least, that's what we believed. 3 months later the town reopened the lake. People started swimming again. Fishing again. Everything returned to normal. But the rule stayed. Don't swim after sunset. Most people still followed it. But some didn't. Because people always think the danger is gone. Last week, a group of tourists went swimming at night. The police say one of them drowned. They found his body floating near the dock. Face down in the water. But when they pulled him out, the coroner reported something strange. There was no water in his lungs. Instead, they found something small and black inside his throat. Something that looked like a baby eel. And 2 nights ago, someone knocked on my door. Slow. Wet. Dripping footsteps on the porch. When I looked through the window, I saw a man standing there. Completely soaked. His head tilted slightly to the side. And when he slowly lifted his face, his eyes were completely white. Then he smiled. And whispered the same words Ryan once said. "Why did you come in?"